Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, welcome back for another edition of Someone You Should Know. Very glad to have you with us today because we're going to be talking about one of my very, very favorite subjects, and that is love. Now, we have had many shows about love, and there are very many aspects to that four-letter word, and we're going to be talking a little bit about a few of them today with my very special guest. We are brought to you today by our good friend Christine Dean, who is the networking diva. I tell you about her all the time. Pick up the phone, email her for a free consultation because she can help you with any aspect of your social media. If you're working on your marketing, you're working on your networking, you want to work on improving your presence on social media, you need to reach out to Christine Dean. She is the sponsor of this show. She is also the producer of this show. She knows what she's doing. That's why I don't have to, because she does it all. And she's very good at what she does. Christine Dean, the networking diva, reach out to her. You won't be sorry you did. Well, as I said, love is something that we have talked about time and time again. We keep talking about it, and yet we still don't quite understand what it is and all the aspects that go along with it. So I have invited a very, very special guest. John Kenny Vaughan is with us today, and we have already had an earlier conversation, and he goes by Kenny. So it says John Kenny Vaughan on the screen, but I'm going to call you Kenny.
That'll work.
That'll work. You are down in the south part of Texas in Beaumont.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful, beautiful country down there. How are you today? What's your weather like down in Beaumont? Did you get
I'm cold
down there?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're in the 20s. So that's it's been a cold winter though.
It's kind of crazy, and yet within a few days we're going to be back in the 70s again. You know that.
That's
so
right.
It's kind of crazy. Well, you and I have had a discussion earlier. We talked a little bit, and I have researched, and I'm fascinated with your viewpoint about love because right off the bat, what led me to you is this phrase, which I have used myself. Love is the most powerful and most misunderstood word in the English language. And so right from the get-go, Kenny, I want you to say, what is love as defined by Kenny Vaughan?
Well, it's not what I say it is, it is what it is. But there, I would like to just say love is there's a feeling of love. And I would argue that that's not love itself. That's the fruit of love. But love itself is doing what you believe is truly best for someone else without regard for yourself. Just meaning, we can do stuff for someone, but it's not really for them, it's for us. So love is kind, but kindness is not always love. I can be kind to you because of what I want to get from you. That's not love. So love is not a what, it's a why. And so it's doing, that's why I say it's doing what's truly best for someone else without regard for yourself, meaning I'm not doing it for you, for me. It's really for you. And it's going to be a sacrifice for me. So that's my best shot at trying to put it into words.
And the fascinating part of what you just said to me is when you say that love isn't necessarily about someone else, it's about you and what you derive from it and what you need to get out of it. Am I correct?
Well, I wouldn't say it's for you. It's not, my love is not for me. It's for others, but it is about who I am. Just in other words, maybe I could say it like this. I used to think that if someone loved me, it was because of who I was. And which meant if I was the right thing, I would be loved. And if I was the wrong thing, I wouldn't be loved. So then what I would do is I would spend my life fighting to be loved. And then, so in that process, I was killing love in my own life because I was failing to, in other words, I was never loving you. I was always loving me. I was trying to be what you needed me to be so that you could love me. So I'm always just trying to please everyone. And I would argue that is the wrong fight. That's why I called the book The Right Fight. And I think that love is me, but is what people become. So the truth is, if someone really loves you, it has nothing to do with who you are. Or if someone really loves me, it has nothing to do with who I am. It's a revelation of who they are.
And oh man, this is, there are so many facets to that word and how we use it. And I know also something that really stood out to me was when, if you say to somebody, what's the opposite of love? Their response is usually hate.
Right.
But in your world, the opposite of love is not hate. What is it?
And opposite may be the right word. I think it is, but for the sake of this argument, I'll say the opposite of love is fear, and that hate is a fruit of fear. So hate is not the opposite of love. Hate is the opposite. I mean, hate is a fruit of fear, and the opposite of love is fear. So another way to think about that, I would say it like this would be: love will do what is best for others without regard for itself. So if I love you, if I love my wife, then I'm going to do not anything she wants, or just what makes her happy, but what I believe is truly best for her. And that many times is going to be a sacrifice for me, but I'm willing to do that. But fear will do what is best for itself without regard for others. So to me, that's what makes it the opposite of love. So if I believe that my wife is only going to love me based on who I am, then I'm always afraid of not being loved. Then I'm always loving her so that she will love me, which is not love at all. It's me using love to get what I want from my wife. And over time, she realizes she's not loved. That, everything I do is for me, not for her. And so I'm destroying our relationship. So I believe, although I agree with you, we have endless understandings of what we believe love is. I don't think there's endless things that love is. I think love is only one thing. And our confusion and our suffering and our failed relationships and everything else are usually rooted in our misunderstanding of, or our false beliefs about what love truly is.
Well, and also I think it's fair to say that you can't go to the library and check out a book that says this is how to love. Love is a learned feeling and experience rather than something that you can study and take a test, and if you get an A or a B, fine. You're now understand love. Love is something that you not only have and experience in your soul and in your heart, but it's something that you are constantly studying. My wife and I have been married over 50 years now, and we're still learning about many aspects of love. And I have to say, and I'm going to throw it in your lap too, is I don't believe that we are living in a society today that really understands what love is all about.
Yeah, actually, that I think that's our society's biggest problem is that they have been taught. They do get taught. Unfortunately, they get taught to love themselves, and so the world teaches us, and school teaches us, and psychology teaches us that if we don't love ourselves, we can't love anyone else. And I know this is
Interesting.
counterintuitive, and it's so ingrained in our
Yeah.
thinking. You're going to have to think about this. But I believe the truth is that if you love yourself, you can't love anyone else. And that love is selfless, not self more.
You become
And
obsessed
so,
with that self-love.
say that again.
I was saying you become obsessed with self-love so that you have trouble expressing it outwardly because you're looking to the inside for the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. And so love puts someone first. So if I love myself, I put myself first. And so maybe example would be a good way to express it. Be, like, we say we love people, but we really find out who we love whenever a sacrifice is required. So if you and I are in the same room and I say I love Stuart, but someone comes in the room and says one of you's coming with me and it's not looking like it's going to end well, and I say, hey, take Stuart, I love me. But if I say take me, I love you. Well, after that happens, if someone came to you and said, hey man, who was that guy and what happened? You might say, man, that was Kenny. I love him. But the truth was I loved you. So you felt love when I loved. And so when people ask me, hey, but if I love myself, then you're going to say, that's the biggest jerk I've ever met. I mean, that's the most selfish guy. Like, as soon as he walked in here, he was pointing to me. But we think that love is what we feel. So we fight for the feeling and then we destroy love in our own lives. So maybe another way I could say it is like, people used to ask me, hey, I've been married for 28 years. I love my wife with all my heart. But people used to ask me, do you love your wife? I'd say, absolutely. But now what I always want to say is, you know what? You really need to ask her. Because if I love my wife, then she's going to know she's loved. And me loving my wife is being patient, kind, truthful, protecting her for her sake, not so that she will love me. Whether she loves me or not, I'm going to love her. So love is selfless, and self-love is me first, or self more.
Yeah, and I like your analogy of, instead of love being me first, it is looking outwardly and saying you first.
Right.
Because to coin that phrase from the movie Jerry Maguire, he looks at Renee Zellweger and he says, "You complete me," and it's a good line, because love is a two-way street. And sometimes I think we see it as a one-way street. You got to go out and get it and then bring it back. But it's better shared with somebody else, because you understand it better when you're sharing it with someone else. Is that a fair analogy?
So I would say love is my responsibility. It's my responsibility to love you, even if it's a one-way street. In other words, even if you won't love me, a loving relationship will be a two-way street. So if two people, you're not gonna keep two people in a relationship for long if it's a one-way street, because only one person is loving. And if I love you and you won't love, then at some point I am failing to love you by enabling you not loving, because loving is best for you. Like, so if me loving you means doing what I believe is truly best for you, then what is truly best for you is not that you be selfish. And so if I'm loving you and you're taking advantage of my love, or taking advantage of my willingness to love you, then if I love you, and I now, love requires that I ask you or confront you about that. I mean, not every little thing that comes up, but if this is a pattern in your life. But what we think that me loving you means that I got to be nice, and it wouldn't be nice to say, hey, I'm loving you, I'm doing these things. It seems to me that you just love yourself. I mean, you're fine with all of it, but you're not about to love me. But that doesn't seem nice, so we don't want to do it. Which is us loving ourselves. Just like I'm doing what is easy for me instead of what's best for you. But if I love you, then love actually becomes my offense and my defense. So I never have to come to you to say, hey, look, this is what I want from me, if I'm willing to love you for you, because your selfishness is never best for you, ever.
So what happens if you and I don't see eye to eye on things, and I'm a little bit more of an adversary? And all, can you continue to love your adversaries, and do you have to put a little more effort into it than if they were really your best friend?
Yeah, you can love your adversary, you can love your enemy, and and you don't have to like someone to love them. So if we're adversaries, and I'm not advocating for going and stirring up trouble, but if if we're in a relationship of some kind, or I have the opportunity to speak into your life, and we discuss something and we don't agree on it, then if it's not something critical, there's all kinds of stuff that we don't agree on. But if what we don't agree on, in my best I can tell, is going to derail your life. So I don't know, maybe you just like to beat people, you're physically abusive, or something along those lines. Then, but you're not abusing me. I mean, I could just say, hey, you can beat everybody else, but you're not going to beat me. Good luck, But but I have a responsibility to love you, not just you, but everyone. And so if I'm going to keep love alive in my life, my responsibility is to love, not to make sure that I'm loved. Then that means that, yes, I do have to be willing to deal with confrontation, to say, I don't think it's best for you to beat people. Can you help me understand why you should? And if your argument is, I have my own truth, and in my truth, that's the best thing to do, and we can't agree on it, then me loving you would be to say, I totally disagree. And because I love you, I can't help you do this. Like, I'm not going to help you wreck your own life, not to mention abuse all these other people.
I mean, this is really the foundation of what religion is all about.
Well,
I think is loving your neighbor as thyself.
right.
And I think that sometimes, especially in today's society, we forget about that. We don't say that often enough, and we certainly don't do it often enough. I mean, I'm sure that of the people that are watching and listening to this show, I would ask them, how many of your neighbors in your neighborhood do you know and interact with on a semi-regular basis? And the number is probably very low, except if there is some kind of a tragedy, somebody's house catches fire, all of a sudden the neighborhood is there to help. And then once the disaster is over, everybody kind of goes back into their own routines. And we forget that moment of love that we had and we shared, that we can't continue to do that. I believe, were you part of a recovery effort down many years ago, down along the coast,
Yes,
flooding?
sir.
I think I saw a little video and
Yes,
all.
sir.
And man, you said some great stuff about how people, no matter what the color of their skin or their ethnic background or whatever, when there's a tragedy, people come together. But we don't do it often enough, and we don't continue to do it. We put it back in the closet when we're finished.
Right. And you said earlier, you can't go to the library and check out a book, but there is a book, and the whole premise of the whole book is love, and that is the Bible. And I would say that that love is actually anti-religion. And I want to be careful with this. We'll make sure people understand it. Just what I mean by this is that I believe that religion at its core is the belief that if I do certain things, I'll get certain things, and if I do other things, I'm gonna get something different, maybe that I don't want at all. So then it's a belief that leads us to behave to be rewarded, and expect that if we misbehave, that we're going to be punished, and that everything depends on us. But love is actually the opposite of that. Love is love. In other words, Jesus already loves you because of who he is. No, God doesn't love you because of who you are. God loves you because of who he is. If he loved us dependent upon who we were, he wouldn't. I'm sorry, but we're not worthy of love. Like, we all know ourselves. We all know the darkness in our own hearts and everything else that's involved in that. So our love, his love for us, is not dependent upon us. It's dependent upon who he is. And then when we realize that we're really loved despite who we are, and this works in every single relationship, it's really when someone hurts you that you have the opportunity to reveal to them that you love them. Because when they hurt you, they expect to be hurt in return. They expect you to slap them back. But when instead you go to them and say, hey, I'm not down. I'm not okay with you hurting people. And I'm certainly not okay with you hurting me. But why did you do that? And I'm not going to hit you back. I want to try to help you do something different. Now, if you're not willing to, because I love you, I'm not going to tag along. I'm not volunteering for your selfish mission. So love is the why, not the what. And I would say hurt is the greatest opportunity for us to reveal that we actually love someone. And love is our offense and our defense. If I love you, I am the first one to take a stand against you when what you're doing is very selfish. If I love myself, I'll tolerate as much of your selfishness as you want to delve out, as long as I feel like I'm getting more from you than it's costing me. Once I finally get to the point that I can't take it anymore, then I draw a line for my sake, not for yours. So love will defend you long before you ever need your own defense, if you're willing to love. Because if I see you even thinking about abusing someone and I love you, I'm like, whoa. What are you thinking? You know, I mean, it's not for me, it's for you. It's the same way with our kids and everything else, you know. It's like when I realize this is for my best for my kid, then I'm willing to make sacrifice. But if it's just about how they treat me, I let them get away with murder because I don't feel like dealing with it.
Are you trained in this, Kenny? You know, what is your background when you were growing up, and what was your career, or is what you're doing now what you've always done right from the get-go?
So I mean, I was a long distance ski jumper for the first part of my life. And I mean, that's how I kind of found my way into this. And I battled a lot of fear, not so much fear of being injured. I got hurt a lot more than most people. I logged a couple months in hospital stays and a dozen or more surgeries, but that was never my real problem. My problem was the fear of failing. I was trying to win a national championship. But when I would get there, I would, no matter how hard I trained them, and I worked with some of the greatest coaches in the world, U.S. team coaches, and they taught me a lot about the fundamentals of my sport, but no one could really help me overcome my fear of failing. And so battling that fear over time is what got me on this. I ended up here. At the time I was dating a girl. She's been my wife for about 28 years now, but Tammy she wrote a couple of scriptures on my equipment. Like, God didn't give me the spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I'd never heard either one of those scriptures at the time. But long story short, that took a while. But ended up back at the Nationals. I had crashed on the second jump. We're going 70 miles an hour, hitting a ramp. We're flying 3/4 length of a football field, rising almost 3 stories. And we get 3 jumps. Longest jump wins. I crashed on my second jump. I had busted a boot on my ski. It was a time I'd have been. This was the time I'm terrified, even if nothing's wrong. Now everything's wrong. It's a time I've been more afraid in my life, and I just decided that I saw those scriptures on my equipment, and I decided, never mind me, like never mind the gold medal, never mind my dream. I can't. Mainly because I just couldn't deal with the pressure. It's like I can't. It was like more than I could even handle. And so I said, never mind all that, Lord. I just want to do the best I can for you. And when I said that to myself, I thought I would do more for him than I would for my medal. It was like a higher calling, and I felt like with no chance of failing, because I didn't think it mattered if I won or not, as long as I finished for him. And when I made that decision, for the first time in my life, I was unafraid. And with a busted boot and the time I'd been more afraid in my life, I jumped further than I'd ever jumped in my life. And I won this Nationals, and I went home thinking, what happened? Like, how was I not afraid? And I started, that led me to start digging into thinking about every decision I made and which one resulted in me not being afraid. Because for a decade, I've been trying to figure out how to get to that place. And that led somehow in that I read a scripture that said, perfect love drives out fear. And so I asked myself, what is love? And I did that because my greatest coaches would always ask me very simple questions that almost trivial. They seem like kindergarten. like how do you ride your ski? Or if you're thinking about baseball, they say like, show me how you hold the bat. Well, you would think, what difference does it make how I hold the bat, man? I've been swinging this thing for 20 years. But the truth was, if you didn't hold it right, there was nothing they could teach you that would get you to the place you needed to be. So that's what made me go, okay, what is love? And I had no idea what love was. And so I know I haven't had any training, but I've spent the last 20 years. I thought I would answer that question in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. I would have that resolved. But what I found was it was like an onion. And every time I would peel a layer off, there would be another layer and another layer. And so little pieces of truth led to more and more and more truth that totally changed the way I see everything in life. And it's made me a better father, better husband, it made me a better athlete. It made me better in business and like everything. And it's taken so many monkeys off of my back because I'm not running around trying to make sure I'm loved by everyone. My responsibility is just to love. And it's the answer
Right.
to every question I've ever had. I know that may sound crazy, but
No.
it really is. And so, or it leads me to the answer to every question. So
Yeah.
it's been a long journey, but it's all I have thought
pay
about.
it forward. Yeah, it's to pay it forward. What we learn, we want to share and pay it forward. So is that what led you into what you do today? And that is you started Shields of Strength, and that's the website. We're going to be scrolling it across the screen, folks. And what it is, I was fascinated with what you do, and it is religious products, and all of it is sayings that are done on pieces of jewelry and shirts, everything. And your first book was Shields of Strength.
That's correct. Yeah, the first book I wrote was Shields of Strength.
And you
It's
started,
just a
and
true
that
story of
led
how
to,
we started. Yeah.
yeah, it led to this site. And as we're looking at that, I mean, it's a beautiful website, folks. And for instance, here on this screen right now, in the upper left-hand corner, you see there is a cross, but it is wrenches. So it is a testament to those that are working in the mechanical trade that want to have something that is specific to them. There are some that are very medically oriented. You've got a whole category of sports uh, 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 pieces that it is amazing to me what you have done and created. And this is a very, very broad site. You have got an awful lot of products. Are those designed by you and your wife and your staff right there at your facility in Beaumont?
Yes, sir. We design everything, and my goal is, like, my wife wrote the scriptures on my equipment. So we're just trying to get a piece of God's word around someone's neck, hoping that
Mm-hmm.
if it's there long enough, it'll change their life. So that's why we put it on we make a wrench cross, because I was a skier, it was on my ski gear, we make a baseball bat cross. So we're just trying to get something around someone's neck that they relate to with truth that can change their life.
It is incredible. There's one that's on the screen right there that shows a fella climbing up a power pole.
Yeah,
And
alignment.
also,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, they are very, very specific and very, very beautifully done, and all crafted. Uh, Really, some good stuff. There's some patriotic stuff that you have. Yeah, the fitness
Yeah.
and sports. That's real interesting. Uh, there you go. The baseballs, the dumbbells, the boxing gloves, and each one, folks, as you can see on the screen, and you can go to the website and look a little bit closer. Each one of them has some kind of scripture on it,
Right.
and to make it even more meaningful. Uh,
That's our goal. I mean, the jewelry is just a tool. I would say our goal is to get one piece of God's word change my life in ways I can't even explain. And so, when that happens, you just want to share it. Like you see people struggling, and you want to help them, but what can really help them? And so the jewelry is just I don't even wear a lot of jewelry myself. I love jewelry, but my wife wears it. But we design all our own stuff. But it's just a way to get people to change lives. That's the mission.
When did you
We
start
started with just
Shields of Strength? When did you start?
so 90. I think we made the first one in 97. What happened was I wanted to, after I got home, I couldn't carry my equipment around, and I was going, wow, this fear as a skier written on my gear. I need something to be in business. I need something to love my neighbor. I need something to be a better husband. And so I went to a surplus store and I bought a blank military style dog tag, and I had those same scriptures engraved. I just wore it around my neck. And then one day I gave it to someone, and then I made me another one, and I would see those people wearing it, months later. I would see the ball chain. I was like, wow, like that's doing for them what it did for me. So we started making dog tags in bulk, and that's how we got started. And then 9/11 came about that time, 2001. And the military stumbled on them, and we started getting requests from the military, and they became the most worn emblem by the United States military. And, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and somehow the president of the United States at the time heard that someone was wearing one. Unfortunately, he was an Army Ranger. He was killed in Iraq, and it was on Memorial Day. And the president spoke and talked about Russell. And then he read Joshua 1:9, I will be strong and courageous. I will not be afraid or discouraged. For the Lord my God is with me wherever I go, off the back of his Shield of Strength dog tag. And then that hit, nationwide media, and Associated Press picked it up, put it in 6,000 newspapers. And so that's how it kind of went from just making dog tags myself to, over the years, when we made probably 4 million dog tags for the United States military. We gave a lot of them to them. And then 10 years after doing that, we started making the jewelry, and now we've been making the jewelry for over a decade, and we probably got 400 pieces of jewelry, but everything's got a scripture on it. I never imagined we would have so many things, but just slowly built on itself.
Yeah. On the screen right now are your challenge coins. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And what the beauty of what I think Shields of Strength represents is that if you have if somebody has an idea for a design, they can work with you to create that piece.
Some of them we can. It's going to cost. I mean, it costs us. We're a couple $1,000s into any new design we create. Now, some of the dog tags and things we can do. Do custom for less, but most of our jewelry items, building the molds, and it usually takes a couple molds. We don't do a lot of custom there, but on the dog tags and the coins we do.
Yeah, but I mean, it just a vast variety that is available. And I mentioned that Shields of Strength was the first book that you wrote. You have a current book out now called The Right Fit, and that is now combining, product, what you're doing, and also the meaning of living your life for loving others. What's interesting is you have a study guide. You not only have a book, but you have a study guide. We were talking earlier about the fact that you just can't learn about love, but there is a study guide that goes along with The Right Fit. And you can get the book by itself, or you can get the study guide by itself, or you can get the bundle, which I think I would encourage those that are watching and listening. If you want to go down this, it's a very great premise of how, if you have a tree on the cover, and if I'm not mistaken, the symbol of that is that if you love and nurture the roots of a tree, it will grow. If you do not do that, if you are fearful of that, or approach it in a negative way, then the roots will die, and thus the tree dies. And so there is a meaning to nurturing that tree of life.
I mean, the book's called The Right Fight, and then the tree. The tree was something I created for children that I was teaching they were like 10, 11 years old, in a Sunday school class, and I was just trying to show them that you don't create your own fruit. Like a tree doesn't create its fruit. It's like the miracle. Like, how does a tree create fruit? in our lives, we don't create or control our fruit, but we do create and control our roots. And the roots in the tree, I'm just trying to show them, is that there's 7 things that love is. It's patient, it's kind, it's truthful, protects others, trusts, hopes, and perseveres. And that love is not angry, rude, envious, prideful, boastful, selfish, delighting in evil. So, and those are things we actually choose. Now, I don't choose if I feel angry, but I certainly choose whether or not I act on the anger that I feel. And to try to help the kids understand what love was, I was trying to say, hey, if you know anyone that's patient, kind, truthful, protects others, is this a fruitful or fruitless person? And the kids would just say, oh, that's a fruitful person. If you know someone that's angry, rude, envious, boastful, selfish, is that fruitful or fruitless person? They would say they're fruitless. And I say, I agree. And so then I would put the tree up there with all its fruit and with loving roots. And I would say, someone comes and hurts you, so they take some of your fruit. What do you want to do? And they would say, I want to go get it back. And I would say, I do too. Let's go get it. But when we go to get it back, are we going to be patient? They would say, no. So I would cut off the patient root. Are we going to be kind? They say, no. I say, okay, I'll cut off the kind root. Are we going to trust? No. I'm going to cut off the trust root. Are we going to protect others? No. I'm going to cut that root off. So what we found is that when we went to get back, went to retaliate, to get even, to slap back, that we cut off the source of what created the fruit to begin with. So now instead of just missing some fruit, our whole tree starts dying. And then one of the kids was like, hey, Mr. Kenny, when we go get our fruit back, what are we going to do with it? Because we can't put it back on the tree. And I was like, wow, are you kidding me? Like, this is a 10-year-old, he's teaching me. So we cut off the source of love in our own life to get back something that's already dead, that won't restore it. But if we'd have kept loving, if we'd have kept being patient, kind, truthful, protecting others, that fruit would have restored itself. And so that's what started the whole premise. And it ultimately led to the book, The Right Fight, and trying to help people understand, hey, look, it's not your responsibility to make sure you're fruitful. It's your responsibility to stay grafted to the vine, to keep your roots connected and to remain loving. Because if you do, no matter what happens to you in time, you will be fruitful. But if you disconnect yourself or you become these 8 things, you're going to have to make up your own fruit and hang it on the tree, and you're going to have to protect it, because God forbid somebody touch it, because it was way too much to create, too much work. So that's kind of what set me off on the journey of those kids. Was right after that happened with the Nationals, me trying to figure out why I was unafraid. Then I was teaching the Sunday school class, and we started talking about love, and we kind of learned together. And that was 20 years ago. So
tell the people that are watching and listening to this show right now a few tips of what they can do to guide their lives on the right path to love themselves better and to love others better.
So, I mean, first you need to know what love is. And I'm just tell you, this is what happened for me. First, I came to understand what love was, and that it wasn't just a feeling, but it was a decision. And it was my free will and my choice to love or not to love. So first you need to understand what love is. And then you need to start making that decision, even when it's very difficult to make. But then what will happen is you'll start realizing that love, it does result in me being fruitful. And then what you're going to have to be careful of is now you're going to go, wow, all I have to do is love and I'll be fruitful. And then you start loving to be fruitful. And what happens is you're no longer loving anymore. Like, I'm not loving for you, I'm loving for my own sake. And so then you have to, and I would say the only way to really learn this, so you know what love is. So now you know what to do, but the next thing you need is the power to do it, because it's not easy. It's very difficult to love, especially selfish and hard to love people. It's difficult to love. And so where do you get the power to love? The only way I know to have the power to love is to get grafted into the vine, which is surrender your life to Christ. I mean, he is love. God is love. And so if the love of God, if love itself comes to dwell in you, in your spirit, then you're born again. Then you have the power to actually love. Otherwise, you're going to be loving to be loved. You're going to give freely to a certain extent, and then you can't take it anymore, and you're going to take it all back. And it just doesn't work. You can't manipulate love. The moment you attempt to love to get something, it's no longer love. It's just not. It just takes time for people to figure it out. But you know it immediately. So learn what it is. And then I think it's like anything else, practice, and then when you fail, because you fail forever, like we're always forever failing. I probably fail as much as I've ever failed. The difference now for me is, used to, when I failed, I would justify it and it was your fault. And I knew why it was your fault. And I would just make an argument for me. Now, when I fail, I just muster the courage to say, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Like I failed and I love you. I didn't want to, but I did. And so I'm gonna go on continuing to try to love you. And you think, if you apologize to people, especially if you have authority or you abuse your authority, or you maybe they did something they shouldn't have done, and you still don't support that, but the way you reacted was not proper. And so you think, if you go to them and say, hey, that was wrong, but I'm sorry for how I overreacted, you think that that's gonna somehow get you run over, or that these people are now all of a sudden going to be taken advantage of because you appear weak. But the exact opposite happens. What really happens when you have the courage to apologize is that person now understands they're loved. They want to give more, not less. Now, every now and then you will come across someone, no matter how much you give, they're just going to take. Well, loving that person means if you love them, you can't help them keep doing that.
Yeah. The website, Shields of Strength. It's also the title of the first book, and then the current book is The Right Fight. I urge you to check it out. Go to the website and all. Kenny, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share your stories and really share your love and your meaning of love with the people that are watching and listening today. I really thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for being willing to chat.
And I always end my shows with a quote from Oscar Wilde: "Be yourself, because everyone else is already taken." And it has a lot to do with love and loving yourself and loving others too. So go out and make it a good day. Join us again next week for another edition of Someone You Should Know. And again, a big, big thank you to Kenny Vaughan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Someone You Should Know